What would you say if all offseason I told you that we could hand out fantasy football cheat codes? Would you be interested? I mean, everyone wants to dominate in fantasy football. Well, sit back, relax, and hit the like button because we're sharing more cheat codes right now. Taylor, you throw this in?
Yeah. Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. I'm a headliner.
What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there where, yes, the old school original Nintendo Game Genie has been plugged in, and we're talking fantasy football cheat codes here once again. Did one of these videos a week or so ago for some wide receiver metrics to pay attention to, but today we're going to kind of look at running backs, right? We're looking for running backs that fight for the extra yard because that extra yard gives you extra points in fantasy football. And the last time I checked, points are pretty important, right? So that's what we're going to be looking at here today. Now, I could sit in this video and say, hey, Jonathan Taylor, he really fights for that extra yards. He breaks a lot of tackles. Yeah, no crap, right? Everybody already knows that. But what we do is we take the metrics that Jonathan Taylor is really good at, and we try to find other players that also finish high in the same metrics at a cheaper price on draft day. That's going to kind of boost our chances of finding a real stud at sometimes here in fantasy football. It's kind of what we looked at last year with James Conner, right? We told a lot of people, hey, James Conner, going to be a sleeper this year. Well, that worked out pretty well, and it's because of things like this. So if that's what you're looking for, you found the right spot, hit the like button. We're going to dive right in to the content right now, and these are the metrics that we're actually going to be looking at here today. But we're not going to go way overboard with advanced analytics in May, right? We're going to build a firm foundation. I kind of want to get you in my mindset. How do I look for things in fantasy football? What am I really looking at to find those studs on a yearly basis? So this is where we're going to start here today. The three metrics I'm going to include are yards created per attempt, right? I want it on a per attempt basis, not just total yards created, because there may be guys that got more of an opportunity in 2021 than others, right? But maybe that's going to change here with the way things have played out over the offseason in 2022. So I want it on a per attempt basis. I want to know what they did when they had the ball. Broken tackles, evaded tackles. Pretty self-explanatory, right? I mean, I think we all kind of know what those are, but I'm looking for those guys that are creative, they're breaking tackles, they're making things happen, they're fighting for that extra yard or two, because all those extra yards or two on each attempt are going to add up over the long haul of a game and a season, and that's what I want, are those extra fantasy points that these guys are able to get that maybe some running backs just aren't. But I didn't just compare like the top 10 running backs because that would be pointless, right? We all know who the top 10 guys are. They're first round draft picks for a reason. Like I said, we're trying to find guys similar to Jonathan Taylor, to Derrick Henry, stuff like that. So these are the running backs that I included when I compared them in these three different metrics. And as you can see, it's most of every number one running back in the NFL and a couple of the top backups that I have listed here. A ton of opportunity to try to find some guys that have the same qualities of maybe a Jonathan Taylor. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first metric here, which is going to be let's go with yards created per attempt. It was the first one on the other slide. Might as well keep it consistent, right? So let's take a look at yards created per attempt. What was created after what was blocked for these running backs? What did they make happen on a per attempt basis? And right off the bat, you can see there's some surprises on the list, at least at the top, right? Was anybody expecting DeAndre Swift's name to be number one on this list? Now, what I did in all three of these metrics is I ranked these running backs. I believe there's 39 of them, 1 through 39, 1 being the worst, finisher in that category, 39 being the most, getting the most points. And then at the end, I've kind of just ranked them against each other to see who really stood out in all three categories. So DeAndre Swift here is creating 4 yards per attempt, but then you can go back and look at the numbers and say, Jake, well, he wasn't very efficient. You're right. But Kyle's going to have a video coming out here later in the week to kind of show you why some of his numbers were inefficient and why if it wasn't for his creativity, he really would have absolutely bombed. So now with the improvements in Detroit, DeAndre Swift is somebody that now we know can create yardage if he can get better blocking. we could get some huge numbers, right? So that's kind of what we're looking at here. Rashad Penny at 3.83, really boosted by the end of the season. Then we get some of the usual suspects, right? Jonathan Taylor at 3.72, Christian McCaffrey at 3.71, Nick Chubb at 3.65. Great numbers. Then Kareem Hunt, Tony Pollard kind of sneak into the mix. Javonte Williams, Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones, Naheem Hines. And now we're starting to drop down here towards 3 yards created per attempt. But don't get me wrong. 3 yards created per attempt is a very good number. So anybody over 3.0, I would have to kind of put in that top tier of this metric. Kind of crazy to see the likes of maybe even a Cordero Patterson, a Michael Carter in here. Could those guys see similar type of roles? The NFL draft just happened, right? What do we lose with Michael Carter in that backfield now with Breece Hall? And we'll talk about all this stuff here in just a little bit. So a little bit surprising when you see yards created. DeAndre Swift, number 1 in the NFL here. When we're looking at the running backs that I included in the slide before, right? Obviously, I didn't use every single running back in the NFL. I'm trying to find the top guys because we're not trying to find the late gems just yet. We're trying to find the guys with similar qualities that we can get in those mid rounds to really boost our overall team. What about broken tackles per game? Now, when I went through and sorted these guys 1 through 39, Najee Harris, number 1 overall at 2.76 broken tackles per game. Now, you can look at this and be like, dude, it's not very much. Honestly, in NFL terms, if dude's almost breaking 3 tackles a game, that's 3 extra opportunities that you have additional yardage. That's what we're trying to find here, right? And we may not say that those 3 broken tackles will then turn into 60-yard runs. No, but what happens if that 1 broken tackle leads to 1 50-yard run? I mean, that's what we're trying to find, is just those extra opportunities. Christian McCaffrey, the only other running back in this entire metric that finished over 2, and he was at 2.6. I get it. A lot of people terrified of Christian McCaffrey, but when he's on the field and when he's playing, he is the number 1 running back in fantasy football. And really, it's not up for debate, right? The problem is just getting him on the field here as of late. After him, Javonte Williams, no surprise there. A lot of people talked about that just last season. Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs right up there with Nick Chubb and Javonte Williams, followed by Alvin Kamara. What's going to happen with his offseason? Ramondre Stevenson, James Conner once again showing up here at 1.67, actually higher than Jonathan Taylor. We have Elijah Mitchell, Miles Sanders, Melvin Gordon, Dalvin Cook, David Montgomery, and Antonio Gibson to round out the broken tackles metric. What about evaded tackles, right? These are tackles that they avoided altogether. Well, Derrick Henry stands head and shoulders basically above everybody. As good as Jonathan Taylor is, Derrick Henry's evading over 11.5 tackles per game. Do you realize how that is stupid crazy? Like, that is ridiculous. I would say it was ridiculous if it was just Jonathan Taylor at the top at 9.7. I mean, these two, league of their own, right? When it comes to evading tackles, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, nobody in the NFL does it any better, but you already know that. And that's why these guys are top 5 picks. That's why they're going to remain that way. But who else is close to them? Christian McCaffrey at 6'7". I mean, I get it. I mean, I just mentioned it with Christian McCaffrey, but we're going to be talking about his name a lot. And honestly, come draft time, if people in my drafts just don't want that headache and he falls, I may take a stab at it, but we'll talk about that later. We'll follow it up with Nick Chubb right there with Christian McCaffrey, Najee Harris, Dalvin Cook, Antonio Gibson, Josh Jacobs, once again, a name that we've seen quite a bit in all 3 of these metrics here. David Montgomery, Javonte Williams. We're starting to see a lot of the usual suspects, right? Well, there was only 3 running backs in all 3 metrics that finished inside the top 10 in each of the categories. Can you tell me which 3 they were? If you said Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, and Nick Chubb, you're exactly correct. Those were the only 3 running backs that we compared in these metrics that all 3 of them finished in the top 10 of all 3 metrics. Now, what about who finished the top 12 overall? When we went through and we tallied all the scores for each of these different sections, who came out on top? I mean, do you want to take a second? Do you want to leave a guess? You can put it down below in the comment section. Let me know who you think the number 1 overall player was. I'll hold off here for just another second, give you time to type it in. Typed in the name, hit the send button. All right, here we go. The top 12 overall finishers. Number 1 overall, Christian McCaffrey. once again. We then followed him by second place by Nick Chubb, Jonathan Taylor, Javonte Williams, Najee Harris, DeAndre Swift, Josh Jacobs, Ramondre Stevenson. Big Mondre out there putting up some work. Kareem Hunt, James Conner, Alvin Kamara, and Austin Eckler, your top 12 overall finishers here. But like we said when we started, we know there's going to be, we know that some of these names are going in the first round. I don't need to sit here and tell you how good Jonathan Taylor is or how good Najee Harris is. So let's go ahead. Let's just remove the guys who are consensus first round picks here as of right now. Let's see what is left. So we've lost what? We've lost McCaffrey. We lose Jonathan Taylor. We lose Najee Harris. And this is what we got left. Still some great options. But does that mean that their situations are going to stay the same here this year as they were last year? Well, not everybody, right? Nick Chubb, I can say his situation may be a little bit better. Sure, Kareem Hunt will be back, but now they have Deshaun Watson under center. I have to think that opens up the running game even more. Plus, the passing game isn't exactly stacked with weapons right now. Javonte Williams, I'm going to say it's up a little bit, right? Similar situation with Melvin Gordon coming back, but we have to say that this backfield is going to start transitioning to Javonte Williams, and now with Russell Wilson under center, once again, better quarterback should open up the running game. Same thing for DeAndre Swift. Now we have outside weapons galore in Detroit. That should open up more opportunities on an upgraded offensive line for DeAndre Swift. Josh Jacobs, Are you seeing a cycle here, right? Another weapon on the outside. Now we have Devontae Adams to worry about in Vegas. Obviously, that could pull defenders outside of the box, give Josh Jacobs better opportunities. Sure, Kenyon Drake could be back, but not overly worried about that. Josh Jacobs still a solid running back who we can see here fights for extra yardage, despite what people are going to say when dude sat down and didn't score a touchdown. What was it, a year or two ago, whatever it was, and pissed everybody off. But remember though, those guys don't care about fantasy football. Overall, Josh Jacobs fighting for extra yards. Ramondre Stevenson's situation doesn't change too much. Kareem Hunt, he's back. He's healthy. His situation has to get better. James Conner, now that we've lost DeAndre Hopkins for 6 weeks, James Conner going to be a big part of this offense. Alvin Kamara, I have trending down for the simple fact that we don't know what's going on with Alvin Kamara just yet in his off-field assault charge. Is that something that, drags into the season? They've already delayed it. Obviously, Alvin Kamara is a top-tier running back, and if he's 100% cleared good to go, he's kind of going to fall into that first-rounder category anyway and wouldn't even be on this list. Other guy, Austin Eckler, I still think he's, a similar role to last year. They're not going to totally abandon this guy. So when we have this list right here, who are the cheapest on draft day, the cheapest options that we can go after? It's these four right here. Josh Jacobs, Ramondre Stevenson, Kareem Hunt, and James Conner. Now, they're not overly late, right? I mean, James Conner right now is still into the third round. Would not surprise me if once draft season comes around, he sneaks up into the second round, but he's definitely a name to pay attention to once again. Kareem Hunt, another guy. Where's his at right now? As of right now, projected 6th round ADP. I would take that stab if you're looking for a running back. Ramondre Stevenson, he's way later, right? He's into the 8th round. Josh Jacobs, he's currently 3rd round as well. So maybe you want to get a top end wide receiver. They're in the 2nd round. I can't do it in the first. I'm still looking for that workhorse in the first if I can get it. But now if I can go 2 running backs with my second one being one of Josh Jacobs or James Conner, I'm probably pretty happy here in 2022, but obviously it's still early. It's May, things can change, right? So we're not going to just say, hey, James Conner, Josh Jacobs, they're must-haves. People who are putting out must-have videos already. They don't have the whole picture. They don't have all the information. They're trying to put out quick videos to get a lot of clicks, a lot of likes, a lot of views because they're desperate for it. I want you to be a better fantasy football player, and that's why we're trying to drop in these things all throughout the offseason because nothing happens until August anyway. So why am I going to tell you what's going to be great in May when it could change in July, right? So we're going to make sure that we just build this foundation all the way up until we have an absolute masterpiece that can go out there and bring home a lot of trophies for you, the fantasy football player. But let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Are any of these names of interest to you here in 2022? I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on a couple of these names. Did any of these names surprise you? Did it surprise you that I didn't spend a whole lot of time on Nick Chubb? I'm trying to do that on purpose because people continually come out and just say, you like Nick Chubb because he's your favorite player. and where that is a true statement, I make sure that we have reasons behind it. It's not like I just have some hashtag half-ass opinion, but I want to continue to paint that, you know what, Nick Chubb belongs in the top upper echelon of all running backs in fantasy football. Is he going to go out there and score 30 points a game? No. But is he a rock-solid running back one every single year for a reason and a safe bet in the first round? You better freaking believe it, and that's why I continue to love myself some Nick Chubb, him finishing 2 overall here. No surprise, but I won't waste any more time on that. Leave that comment down below. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you can, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. We have you covered all offseason to give you every bit of information that you need to bring home some money, some trophies, some respect, whatever it may be in 2022, we got you covered. So hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day, a great week, and we'll talk to you later.